60th edition of Marex Maritime News.
Member companies of MASA and FOSMA have together donated an amount of Rs 25.5 lakhs towards the PM CARES Fund. The cheque was handed over to the Director General of Shipping, Mr. Amitabh Kumar, in Mumbai.
Industry partners MASA and FOSMA are not only aware of their obligations to the seafarers, but are also aware of their social obligations to the nation at large. Bearing this in mind, just as the two organizations are pursuing and appealing with all the powers that be for prioritizing the vaccination for the seafarers, they also stepped up to the plate recently and donated a handsome 25.5 lakh rupees to the PM CARES Fund. This is in addition to the same amount given to the Maharashtra Chief Minister's Relief Fund in the latter part of last year. We sincerely hope that this donation or contribution helps the cause of the nation in fighting COVID. We sincerely also hope that we overcome this and come out stronger than ever before.
This is a way of giving back for the help that the Indian government provided during the very difficult time of COVID-19 when India was in a lockdown. Our seafarers who are essential workers, frontline workers, selflessly working on board the ship, keeping the economy going during that difficult time. When countries had closed their borders, there were no ways for them to come back. The Indian government, the Director General of Shipping, all assisted us in making sure that our seafarers were still able to come back in a timely manner. As a gesture of goodwill, as a gesture of giving back, that is how FOSMA and MASA, both the organizations, decided to first give the Chief Minister's Fund last year here in Maharashtra, and finally the Prime Minister's Fund this year via the DG Shipping Office. Once again, we thank our seafarers, we thank the administration, DG Shipping, and the Government of India to support us during these difficult times.
Happy Indian National Maritime Day to all from our team at Marex. The headlines on Monday, the 5th of April 2021. Mission Seafarer Airlift. Team leaders felicitated. Oil prices drop as shipping resumes in Suez Canal. Shipping sector regulator a must. India's ossified ports are ceding Indo-Pacific trade to rivals. Indian coal import drops 14%. A felicitation ceremony to honor Mr. Amitabh Kumar, Director General of Shipping, in the presence of Chief Guest, His Excellency Mr. P. Kumaran, High Commissioner of India to Singapore, was held on the 29th of March under the joint auspices of MASA, FOSMA and travel partner ATPI. Those honoured for leading the team that together brought home over 20,000 seafarers on chartered flights last year during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic lockdowns across the globe included Mr. Fatih Ati, Senior Vice President, Qatar Airways, Captain Kapil Kaushik, ex-defense attaché at Indian Embassy in Doha, and Mr. Manish Puri, Vice President, Sales, Indigo Airlines, Mumbai. Oil prices fell early on Tuesday as the Suez Canal reopened for ship traffic after a week-long blockage, while the rising US dollar put further downward pressure on crude. WTI crude prices were down 1.62% at $60.52, and Brent crude was trading down 1.35% on the day at $64.06.
Hindustan Institute of Maritime Training.
There is a need to have a shipping regulator, pointed out industry body CII's representatives in a conference on lowering logistics costs. They raised concern on container shortage and high shipping rates, two factors that are impacting India's export competitiveness.
At present, international shipping is very heavily regulated. This is especially so on the technical side, wherein every movement, every course of action, every flip of the hand, every batting of the eyelid on board is so tightly regulated that even your sleep is officially controlled and recorded. And if anything goes wrong, the blame will always lie on the ship, because the regulator is the king. And as per the doctrine of sovereign immunity, the king can do no wrong. If the weather gets inclement, it's not an act of God. It is the master to blame. As per the regulator, in port and canals, you must use a pilot. But if anything happens, the ship is to blame. How many more regulators do you want in shipping? As if it was not enough on the technical side. So we come down to having a regulator for logistics costs and start controlling freight rates and terminal handling charges and ancillary costs, throwing all laws of supply and demand to the winds. Just because containers are in short supply and the freight rates have hit the highs is no reason to start immediately regulating mechanism, to start immediate regulatory mechanism for controlling what moves as per the laws of supply and demand. When the freight levels remained below operating levels for the past 14 years, there was no demand for a regulator. But now, when freight levels are covering operating expenses and giving a margin and helping to recover the past losses of 14 years or so, we should not go hammer and tongs against the liner ship operators who have been maintaining services and schedules through thick and thin and through a pandemic and demand regulatory mechanism. Let shipping be an adventure as it always was. Let's not regulate adventures.
India occupies a commercially enviable location on the globe, straddling the Indian Ocean, the Arabian Sea, and the Bay of Bengal. The country's coastal front and backyards are home to the vibrant Indo-Pacific economies. Capitalizing on the striking international trade opportunities, these attributes present should be a no-brainer for Delhi. Yet, India's fortune as a global trading power have been dodged for years by a glaring anomaly. 30% of the nation's export and import sea-based cargo must be transshipped via foreign hubs.
Yes, it's quite evident from the preference given by global trade leaders to Sri Lanka, which is such a small and insignificant island with such a minuscule economy, situated right next door. Why? It is surely regrettable. India has not given due importance to the development of shipping in spite of being independent for 70 plus years. We have 20 major ports and 200 minor ports and such a huge coastline to contend with. For many years, we did not have a separate Ministry of Shipping. Lack of transparency in government agencies did not help in many ways to facilitate ease of doing business. All seafarers who have traded on our coastline definitely have experienced that. The cumbersome procedures involved in converting a vessel from foreign going to coastal and vice versa was a major hurdle. Having observed at close range the professionalism, sincerity of purpose, tenacity, and hard work of the labor force in a Chinese shipyard close to Hong Kong, I was quite lucky having been involved in conversion of few VLCCs to VLOCs in that shipyard. Just to give an example, we had a provision supplier arriving on board a vessel in dry dock during lunch hour. The crew and the ship's crane were not obviously available to pick up the consignment, at least for 30 minutes. When the truck driver of the supplier came to know of this, he didn't wait. Lo behold, he just immediately picked up the heavy sacks of dry and frozen provisions on his back and climbed up the steps of the ladder laid out from the yard to the poop deck of the VLOC. No questions asked, no excuses given, just get the job done. Our labor has to inculcate this habit if we have to compete in the world. I was quite impressed by the punctuality of all concerned in the Chinese shipyard. Mangalore, Cochin, Karwar, and even Port Blair can be considered as transshipment hubs with minimum bureaucratic obstacles. The present government, of course, is doing a lot of good things to improve the situation, but a lot needs to be done to compete with the others. The major factor is attitude. Let us resolve to make India a strong, capable, and attractive maritime destination.
That China is the leading EXIM player in the Indo-Pacific region and that India comes a close second. But you must also remember the fact that China is the leading EXIM player worldwide and not only in the Indo-Pacific region. India, for its part, has not done too bad for itself, having tripled its share in the world trade in the last 3 decades. The premise that port infrastructure or the lack of it has impacted India's EXIM trade is true only to a point. Look no further than Bangladesh. Bangladesh has an infrastructure which is worse than India. Its ports have much shallower draft and practically 100% of its cargo is routed through transshipment hubs. And yet the country is doing very well for itself as far as the EXIM trade is concerned. As far as the Colombo location is concerned, geographically it is at a much more advantageous position than in India, and therefore it makes sense for an Indian entrepreneur to invest in port business at the port of Colombo. Most of the major Indian ports in Tamil Nadu, Nhava Sheva and in Gujarat have several mainline services to important trade lanes, but the other ports do not have mainline services and hence have to use the transshipment route, and it makes good business sense that part of the transshipment cost is routed back to India. We must also keep in mind that progressively India's share in Sri Lanka's transshipment basket is reducing and the share of Bangladesh and other countries is increasing, and that is all the more reason that Indian entrepreneurs should invest in Colombo terminal to reap a good business dividend. If India wants to improve its competitiveness in the EXIM trade, it needs to generate more cargo from its port hinterlands, because any transshipment, whether it is routed in a foreign port or an Indian port, is an additional cost and impacts or impairs the viability of the EXIM trade.
India's coal import dropped 13.6% to 196.13 million tons in the April-February period of the ongoing fiscal year. The country had imported 227.23 million tons of coal in the year-ago period, according to a report. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you for watching. See you next Monday.